Let's talk about vibration dampeners. I went to time this car, and the timing mark was nowhere near where it should be. That's an indication that your vibration dampener has probably slipped, and the timing mark, it is meaningless. Well, you can leave it like that, but I'm of the opinion that you know something's wrong, you fix it. So we're going to get into replacing the vibration dampener. And just for illustration, here's an engine that's been removed, and you can see where the vibration dampener is. Access to it can be a little tough. This happens to be a 65 413. If you were to take all the belts and pulleys and stuff off the front of the engine, you'd get down to a much better view of the vibration dampener. And here's another shot of another engine with the water pump already removed. And now you can get a much clearer idea about the vibration dampener. And if you pull the vibration dampener right off and had it loose, this is what you would have. Keyway to orient it to the crankshaft. And it's basically a center hub. This is rubber. And this is just a heavy weighted ring. And so as the engine moves, the dampening piece is allowed to chuck back and forth and cancel out the unpleasant crankshaft vibrations. Well, this piece of rubber here, well, they're getting kind of old if your car was built in 1960. And so they can fatigue, and this will lose its orientation to the center and to the keyway. So in other words, this thing can just slip. Your engine will run just fine because your timing hasn't changed. It's just that you can't get the timing marks to line up. And it also means that this may be getting near failure. When they fail, well, this rubber piece completely disintegrates. This can come loose, and it's spinning at, well, crankshaft speed, so you can do some damage. In other words, if you know you've got a bad vibration dampener, get it fixed. And one thing you can kind of start to see on this one, the center has walked. It is dislocated from the outer ring. See the recess? Well, there. And you can see it here. So one of the two ways to easily tell you have a vibration dampener problem is, one, you can't get your timing marks to line up, but the engine runs fine. And two, is you start to see a shift between these two pieces. I've actually had some cars, a few of them, where this weight has walked down the shaft to the point where it's actually grinding on the chain cover. The cover that goes between the crank and the camshaft that covers the timing chain. One, two, three, four, five, six. These 6 bolts made up with the pulleys up in here. And by the way, these go on only one way. In other words, these 6 bolts are not uniformly spaced. You would think they would be. They're not. So when it comes time for reassembly, you know, if you can't get the holes in here to line up, it's because it only goes one way. So what do you have here? This is a freshly rebuilt vibration dampener. As far as I know, there's only one place where you can get it done, and that's our friend out in California, the damper doctor. And there, you should be able to get all the information you need off of that. So I sent him out a spare. This is how it came back. See how nice and tight these two pieces are to each other compared to the one we were just looking at. So I guess they give it a shot of black. Of course, they should be turquoise for a 62. But we'll take care of that here. And you see, they include a new sleeve because there's an oil seal on the timing chain cover, and you can find that these things will have worn a groove in there, and you'll have a slight oil leak. So this is a nice touch to have a sleeve put on here. This is 2018. This was right about 160 some odd dollars. So let's get her painted up. One of the ways to see you have a healthy vibration dampener, your keyway here, your timing mark should be right about 90 degrees here. I happen to find this one in the stores. I mean in my warehouse. You see the, this one's got a timing tape on it. I had 3 or 4 other dampeners out there, and top dead center was down here, over here, which just tells you that the ring has slipped. So, just as a crude eyeball, again. Yep. So let's get this thing painted. So continuing with the vibration dampener replacement, we have the radiator removed, And that's going to give us a whole lot more access. It might be possible to replace the vibration dampener with a radiator in place, but we have other things to do while we're in this project, so it makes sense to remove the rate. So here's what you got when you pull off the pulley. That bolt is a 1 1/4, and it does have to come out in order for the vibration dampener to be removed. That's a nothing special puller, and off she'll come. When I say that's a nothing special puller, it's actually a steering wheel puller. There's not a lot of force needed because this is not really an interference fit. So now she's out. So here's the damper installed. The torque on the center bolt is 135 foot-pounds. And here's your pulley on. It took me 5-6 tries to get it lined up because it only goes one way. The torque spec on those 5 bolts is 15 foot-pounds. It's a lot less than what you would think, so don't crank it too much, huh? Now this is the first step. First time I'm running it up to the vibration dampener installed. Today we're going to be replacing the choke on the H. You can see it's open. It's dead cold. There. It's supposed to be like that. It's just working difficult. So Mancini Racing makes an entirely new choke for this car. 110 bucks. I need to replace it, you know, just to take care of this cracked area here. By the way, this crack is a pretty common thing to find. And sometimes this whole snout is broken off. But you got your heat riser tube here, which is taking the heat from the exhaust manifold and playing it up into the choke. Well, at some point in the past, somebody has decided they need to remove this, and they'll just try pulling it back and figuring they can get enough clearance. That's not the way to remove it because you'll end up chipping these things. And up until Mancini made new parts, there just were no parts. You can see the breather tube also presents an interference. The proper way to service this tube, which is not the focus of today, but the proper way to service this tube is to take these 3 screws off, and then you'll see that this whole choke becomes free, and it's very easy to remove the tube. Enough talking, let's get to wrenching. So what I was saying about removal, I have the 3 screws loose, and then this cover will just come off, and there. See how easy? But you can also see how deep this tube goes in here. So that's how you get it off. Here's your choke housing kit. And you get that new cover, and you get the new bimetallic brain, retaining 3 new screws, and 2 gaskets, and the cover plate. So while you're at it, remove the cover plate to expose the little piston that's in here, and give it a couple shots of your favorite high temp lube if you want. Make sure that everything's moving nice and freely. Reassembly is just what you done did. So the bimetallic goes in the cup, and there is a tapered triangular pin, and it lines up with, wait for it, there, the triangular recess. So you can only install it one way correctly. I suppose you could install it incorrectly and use a lot of force, but just look at it, you'll find the pin, and it orients. There's also 2 gaskets supplied. The bigger gasket goes onto the carburetor housing. Wait, right there. The smaller gasket goes, which is right there, goes on the lid and goes right there. There you have it, back together. Dead cold. Look how nicely that closes. Proof's in the pudding. We'll fire it up later. It won't be long before there aren't any more sunny days warm enough to drive with the top down. Had this out for a drive yesterday. First time in a long time with the top down. We were surprised how quiet it was. This is an entirely different car with the top down. No wind noise. It was nice. buffeting in here.